Hello, this is the video for 1.2 Day 2 Adding Integers notes, and you should have received a handout like this in class, and if you haven't received it or if you lost yours, you can download and print another copy. It's on my class website, the same page that you found this video that you're watching. On my class website, you'll see a PDF. And you're going to glue this in on the left side of your notebook. On the right side, you do not glue that in. The right side is left for homework only. Please have two colors for this video. I'm going to use blue and red, but you can use any two colors that you would like. Okay, so we're going to start with on the left side, adding integers. We have a set of rules. Instead of using a number line, we can use these rules to add integers. It's helpful when the integers are very big or very small. I have like big absolute values. So I'm going to have you fill in some blanks. So the first step number one says if you're adding two integers with the same signs, then add and keep the sign. So then here I want you to remember, the saying, same signs, sum. Okay, and it helps to remember that saying because they start with an S. So if the two integers have the same sign, we take the sum. And sum means that you're going to add. So put a little plus sign. You're going to add them. All right. Now let's look at an example. So for example, we have 6 plus 10. Those are two positive numbers, and you've added those before. 6 plus 10 is 16. So this still follows the rule. They have the same signs, they're both positive, so we find the sum and we keep it positive. So for the next problem, it has negative 6 plus negative 10. They have the same sign, we find the sum and we keep the sign. Our answer is negative 16. Now let's look at the second rule. The second rule says that if you're adding two integers with different signs, then subtract and use the sign of the greater absolute value. So to remember, I tell kids to help them remember this rule is if they have different signs, we're going to find the difference. So here we're going to write abbreviate difference and then put a negative sign and circle it. And just remember that saying is easy to remember because they both start with a D. Different signs, you find the difference. Okay, so let's look at the examples. Here we have negative 6 plus 10. They're different signs. So they're different signs. We find the difference. 10 minus 6 is 4. And then we take the sign of the greater absolute value. This has a bigger absolute value, so our answer is positive 4. And then for the next problem, we have 6 plus negative 10. Again, they're different signs. So we subtract them, we still get 4. And now our number with the greater absolute value is negative, so then our answer is negative 4. So let's take a look at the second box at the top where it says add, and the first problem says negative 9 plus 6. So these two numbers or integers have different signs. So write different in red or with your other color. And the rule is, remember, when they're different signs, you subtract and take the sign of the greater absolute value. So this will be 3, but it's negative because the greater absolute value is negative. So now, some students at this time will ask if they can still go back to the number line, and you can if you'd like. You don't have to draw it, but you can imagine. Now here I drew it for you guys, but if you don't feel like drawing it, that's fine. You can imagine if you were on the number line, you start at 0, you go to the left, negative 9,
Okay, and then you would go to the right 6. So when you're changing directions, that's when you're subtracting. So if you can imagine which direction you're going in, that'll help. So here I'm just going to do this for our sake here. They're changing directions, you subtract. Okay, and if they're going if the two arrows are going the same direction, then you add. So let's take a look at number 2. Problem 2 is 12 plus negative 7. So they're different signs, so that means we'd be going in different directions, to the right 12 and left negative 7, so we find the difference. So write difference at the top, and then you would subtract the two numbers and take the sign of the greater absolute value. So here the greater absolute value is 12, and that's positive. So then write positive 5. Okay, now let's take a look at problem number 3. On problem number 3, we have negative 8 plus negative 10. So both of these are negatives. So we're going to write same at the top. And that means we then take the sum. So the sum is to add. So we're going to add them together. It's 18. And then we keep the sign. So it's negative 18. Now, if you think of it on the number line, if you start at 0 and you go to negative 8, you're going 8 spaces to the left. And then if you add another negative 10, you still keep going in the same direction. So you're just getting further and further negative. So if you're adding 2 negatives, it becomes smaller and smaller to the negative side. Okay, so now let's take a look at the last problem, number 4. We have negative 5 plus negative 11, and they are the same sign. So let's write same at the top. And now we're going to add the two numbers because they have the same signs. We find the sum, and then we keep the sign. So negative 5 plus negative 11 is negative 16. So now in the fourth box we have, I'm sorry, not the fourth, the third box, we have write an expression for the situation, then evaluate. So here we have a banking word problem. In your bank account you have a balance of $25. You deposit $42. What is your new balance? So here, let's go ahead and circle our important information. I'm going to use red to circle it. We start with negative $25. And then we deposit $42. So we have to circle deposit because that's big. That tells whether that's a positive or a negative integer. So because we're depositing, that means we're adding more money into your account. So that means it's a positive 42. So now your expression for this problem is going to be a negative 25 plus 42. And we're going to solve it. Here we have different signs, so we're going to subtract. So on the side, because I know some people prefer to work it out, we're going to subtract the bigger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value. Okay, and then when you do that, you should get 17. So then the answer to this is going to be 17, and it's positive because the greater absolute value is positive, and then we have to label it. We'll label it dollars. Now let's take a look at the second problem, scuba diving. It says a scuba diver dives 15 feet below sea level. He swims up 6 feet, then he dives back down 4 feet. What is his position relative to the sea level? So here, let's first circle our important information. We have, he dives 15 feet below, so I'm going to circle 15 feet. Let's try that again. And then below, okay, then he swims up 6 feet, okay, and then he dives back down 4 feet. So our expression then becomes negative 15 because it's below sea level, then up 6 means positive 6, and then down 4 means we're going to add a negative 4. Now some of you may think, oh, just subtract a 4, which essentially is the same thing, but we're going to keep it all addition. Okay, and now we're going to solve this, and you can just solve the negatives first if you'd like, and then the positive. I'm going to go ahead and work left to right on this one. So I'm going to do here negative 15 plus 6. They're different signs, so I subtract them and I take the sign of the bigger number. Then I bring down the plus negative 4, and now here we have negative 9 plus negative 4. Those are the same signs, so we can add them, and then we keep the sign. Okay, so then our answer, we're going to label it feet because that's the distance. So you can say negative 13 feet or 13 feet below. Oops, I need to spell correctly. There we go. All right, and box your answer. And that's all for your notes. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.